The girl's mother gave her a beautiful crystal pendant for her birthday, inside of which there was a bubble of air, and in this bubble there was golden sand. The seller said that it is unlikely that you will find another such crystal all over the world. The girl liked the gift very much, and all day she twirled the pendant, looking at how the golden sand was pouring inside. And even when the girl fell asleep, she dreamed that she was admiring the pendant, and the golden sand inside the crystal seemed to sparkle with its own light. And the next day, Mom sent the girl to the forest to pick berries. The girl was very surprised, because they lived in the city and there was no forest nearby. But when she went outside, she saw that a real dense forest begins right from the house. The girl did not know how to gather berries, so she just went into the forest and began to look for raspberry bushes. Once she saw them when she was visiting relatives at the dacha. The girl did not find raspberries, but she found a wooden house in the forest, which was exactly at the points in the book with fairy tales. The girl went into the house. There was no one there, but there was a lot of delicious food on the table. The girl really wanted to eat, but she remembered that a fairy tale after that there was trouble, and she did not eat anything. Just tasted a little, and then sat down on a chair and waited, and she did not notice how she fell asleep. But I woke up almost immediately, because I heard the clock ringing. And then a cuckoo jumped out of the clock and screamed. Go away, girl, the Sandman knows you're here. The girl looked at the table and saw that all the food was fake and the whole house was also made of sand. Then the clock rang again and the cuckoo screamed. Girl, run away quickly. The Sandman is coming here. The girl jumped out of the house and ran, but it was very hard to run. And when the girl looked at her feet, she realized why she was running so slowly. She had sandy feet. The girl ran to the stream, but when she began to cross it, her sand legs were washed away with water, and the steps of the Sandman could already be heard from behind. Then the girl took clay, made new legs for herself, got up and ran on. The girl ran to the river, wanted to swim across it, but her hands were also made of sand, and the water immediately took them off. Then the girl grabbed 2 branches that were lying on the bank with her teeth, stuck them into her shoulders instead of her hands and swam across the river. When she turned around on the other side, she saw a Sandman who was quickly catching up with her. The girl ran on, but when the lake appeared in front of her, the girl realized that she could not swim across it. Then she sat down on the shore and began to cry, but then the cuckoo reappeared. She flew in and sat on the girl's shoulder. You can still escape from the Sandman, said the cuckoo, if you wake up immediately. And only then did the girl realize that it was all a dream and immediately woke up. And when she woke up, she realized that the cuckoo had already managed to tell her. The girl took a hammer and broke the pendant. She threw away the crystal fragments and washed away the golden sand with water. And she also asked Dad to get her an old cuckoo clock, which was left from her grandmother, and hang it in her room. And now, if the girl fell asleep and in a dream again got to the Sandman, the clock began to ring, and the girl immediately woke up. But every time the girl woke up, she heard the Sandman laughing. And then it seemed to her that not only her arms and legs, but her heart was turning sandy. The Sandman laughed because he knew that one day the girl would forget to wind up the clock, or it would break, or something else would happen, and then he would catch her anyway. And the Sandman can wait for a very long time, even for an eternity. I was walking around my city in the evening. I saw a girl. She stood and turned her head in the direction of passers-by. At first I was doubtful, but then I came up and asked her name. She replied that her name was Martha. I agree, a very rare name. We walked the streets with her, talked, but at sunset she got nervous, and I noticed a very strong distortion on her face. She fell and began to convulsively shake her limbs and scream. I don't want to. I won't. I don't want to. Don't. But the timbre of her voice changed more squeaky, her scream became deafening. It was getting dark in my eyes. I pulled away, but I didn't see that she was moving behind me. She caught up with me. The lanterns illuminated her face. Black pupils and a soul-chilling smile are more like a grin. She started screaming so that the windows of the store cracked. I was stunned, and I fell on the stairs and rolled down. I woke up already in a white room on a chair. I was walking around the room for about 40 minutes when I heard the sound of the door opening and barely audible laughter. When I saw her, emotions took home up, and I screamed at the top of my voice, "Get away from me." And her face turned from a grin into an insult. She screamed. Blood was flowing from my ears. No matter how hard I tried to close my ears, the noise settled in my head. I screamed and asked for an apology, and, it seems, she forgave. She stopped screaming and I screamed in pain. She suddenly fell to the floor, shaking. She was spitting, turning over in the air, and suddenly she was thrown into the wall. And the usual plasterboard wall could not stand it and broke through. And I got free and started running. I stayed alive, but I never got rid of the habit of getting acquainted on the street. Last summer, my mom and I went shopping. We wanted to buy ourselves some new clothes, and just have a good time. It was still far from evening. After visiting a couple of shops, we went on. We were walking down the street. My mother was telling me something, and I was nodding, listening to her and looking around, running around, looking at the windows and people passing by. Nothing particularly attracted my attention, but then I see that a woman, is walking towards me. She was dressed in plain old clothes, something like a beige shirt for graduation and a blue skirt. I look up at her face, and at that moment I stop breathing. Slightly worn brown hair, a thin face slightly affected by wrinkles, thin lips and empty eye sockets. Moreover, I see that she walks with a confident gait, without a wand, does not collide with people, maneuvers a little, just like we all do when we walk along a busy street and they try to put us on the shoulder. As if she's sighted. She approaches me, equals me, passes by. I clearly saw that in place of her eyes, she just had skin, smooth, fitting and going inside the eye sockets. There was no right. Moreover, she seemed to see my interest in her and met my gaze. She looked at me for those few seconds as we passed each other. I turned around and saw that this woman had also turned around and was looking at me. Then she just continued on her way and paid attention to the people. No one cast sidelong glances at her, although she looked, to put it mildly, scary. And the street was busy, there were a lot of people around. And now the fun begins. Then my mom brings me out of my stupor, and I say, "Mom, I saw such a nightmare here." And that's it. Then my memory ends, and I forget about this incident until exactly yesterday. Quite by chance, sitting at home and reading a book, I remembered about this event. Shaken in emotions, I want to tell my mom about a strange woman and suddenly I fall silent, and we just go on about our business. She tells me something again, and I just listen to her as if nothing had happened. And I remember it clearly last night. I can't explain this sharp lapse in memory in any way, as if this memory was turned off for a long time, and yesterday my memory returned again. There is another oddity. I clearly remember what I saw then. Remember every movement of some strange woman, even the people around remembered a little, but I categorically do not remember the place where it happened. In my memory, it was like a cutout piece from pictures, in which people passing by are visible, and this is a terrible devilry.